Scott here. I had a question about the boring jig that I have and the router templates for mortising that I've made for installing handsets on entry doors. And the question was about the Templaco. I have the Templaco here, Bore Master. Been very happy with this jig. This is it here. Comes with some carbide tip spur bits. The large to drill the through bore, and then it's also got a 1 inch to drill the edge bore, go into brass bushings, and then it just clamps on the door like so. Tighten that knob down once you get it where you want it. The kit also comes with this adapter here, which interfaces with the boring spur bit and locks on. For some reason they don't want you to chuck directly onto here, and if they see evidence of drill chuck marks on the bits, they won't cover it under warranty. I don't know why. They are nice bits, but they're expensive, so be sure not to drop the bits or to collide two bits inside the hole, because they're about 80, I think 80 some dollars a piece now. But I've been really happy with the jig. Works well. Set these aside and I can show you. It is functional for 2 3/8 back set if you leave these shims in, these spacers, or they unscrew. You can take the spacer out, the 3/8 inch spacer, take the other one out as well, and it sets deeper onto the door for a 2 3/4 inch back set. But then you have these loose little shims to keep track of. I have heard that some people make a jig that doesn't have loose spacers to lose like that, but it hasn't been a problem for me. One of the accessories I got was this plug. So this only allows you to drill from one side. And if you're drilling a metal door and you need to pilot from both sides and then use a hole saw, there's no way to run a pilot to that side, so they have this plug that drops in there, and then you can get a 1/4 inch pilot bit that runs through the bushing on that side and the original bushing on that side, and then you can follow up later with hole saw of your choice. So that's the Templaco jig. Been very happy with it. They also have some mortising templates that work okay. This is it here. Basically what you do, it's got these captured pins. So once you bore your hole, take this locator, drop it in the hole, that aligns this jig here. You hammer those in, take this out, run your router through the template, and then pop these pins up, and you've got your mortise, which works fine, except you've got to be a little careful to get these shims adjusted just right, to make sure that it's square on the door, aligned properly, and then you've always got these 2 pinholes to take care of later, which isn't a huge deal. Worked fine for me for a long time, but I got tired of fussing with getting it aligned just right and always having those pinholes. So what I've made for that situation, slide this out of the way, is I've made my own, and it's just 2 pieces of MDF screwed together with the shape of the faceplate mortise that I want to make. Now this is an 1/8 inch oversize, 1/16 in all directions, because I've always got a mortising, downcut mortising bit with a bearing on hand, and the mortising bits for hinges are typically 1/2 inch with a 5/8 bearing, so they have a 1/16 inch offset. So when I run that through here, if this is a 1/16 over on all sides, it ends up becoming perfect shape I'm looking for. So there's the jig. This is actually on, I think of this one's 2.5 degree bevel. So this is not perfectly square to the bottom plate. It's actually leaned in. And the reason I did that is because I've got a 2 or 3 degree bevel on the edge of my door. So when I lock that in, it lines up properly, tips my router parallel with the edge of the door, which makes my mortise parallel. and then the latch faceplate sits flush with the edge of the door. It does tip the faceplate on the hardware 2.5 degrees, but I've never personally found an issue with that. So anyway, this just slides down up and down the door till I get it where I want it. Obviously just clamp it in place at both ends. After I've got my router bit set to the proper depth, router that out and good to go. I also have 2 ways of locating this. Typically what I do is once I determine my exact height from the top of the door to the center of the latch, I'll mark that on my new door blank. I don't know if you can see in here, but I have a center line that actually goes down inside on both edges, so I can line that up with the mark on my door. However, if the door already has a hole bored in it, you can't find the center lines. I've made this little plug, sits in here, and then I can just align that 1-inch hole with the hole that's already in the door. So that's the jig that I prefer to use, because it's kind of one and done. You never have to worry about alignment. I spent quite a bit of time getting the offset centered, so when this is clamped to the side of the door, this mortise is dead center in the door. And to go with that, I also have a template. I don't have any door jamb material here, so we'll just use this as a 1x6. But if this was my door jamb and I was putting the strike plate in, I have a similar jig, built very much the same. Has some center marks on it, so I can measure the jamb, set this down to the center of my latch height, and clamp it to the face of my door jamb. So align this here, clamp there to there, or I can clamp here to here and mortise out the exact set for the latch that I'm using. This is for 2¼ inch strike plate. I also spent quite a bit of time aligning the depth from this face to this face, so that when I close my door, the face of the door slab ends up flush with the jamb. And that took a little bit of trial and error to get that exactly where I wanted it. But once I route out the spot for the strike plate, then I have this plug that I've made that I drop in there, and then I use the DeWalt compact router, which has on the plunge base has a indexable depth setting, so I can change the depth and allow it to go deeper, and that just bores out the pocket that the latch falls into. I think it looks a little bit more professional than just a 1-inch round hole, but that's personal opinion, of course. So that's pretty much it for those 2 jigs and the Technico Bore Master. While I'm here, you didn't ask for it, but I've got it with me. For the same reason, I've not been happy with those as far as adjustments. I've got a really nice quarter cable hinge template, the metal with multi-pieces, but it takes a long time to set up, and almost everything I do is a 6/8 door, 1 3/8 thick. So those templates that I showed you were for an 1 3/8 door. So is this, and it's my hinge template. Obviously I put this on the hinge side of the door, but for purposes here, I'll show you. I've got the 3 hinge pockets pre-made. I flush up the top of the jig with the top of the door. Put some clamps on here. Make sure everything's flushed up. I've got more pockets for more clamps all the way down. Route the 3 hinge pockets, and then when I'm done, when I go to the jamb, I just flip it to the other end, clamp it to the door jamb, but instead of flushing it, I drop it down the depth of margin I want between the top of my door and the head jamb of the door frame that I'm making. And then similarly clamp, route out the 3 pockets, and everything lines up. As long as this hinge is exactly dead center between that hinge and that hinge, you can flip from door to jam without having any issues. Also a 16th inch offset, so because I'm using that same router bit, these are 16th inch wider in all directions, so when I use my downcut mortising bit, all my sizes come out just what I'm looking for. So that's pretty much it. If you've got any questions other than that, feel free to comment. I'd be happy to discuss how I made those templates if you have any questions, and anything else I can help you with. Hope this helps.